Most Warzone players die in this gunfight. This is where panic takes over, decisions get dicey, and the fight is over before you even have a chance to react. An escape artist plays this differently. On this channel, I teach survival, control, and smart aggression, and today I'm showing you how to reset any gunfight in Warzone using the 5 R's. Retreat, reload, reposition, replate, and reengage. You're about to see real fight resets in action. Watch closely, every clip follows the same pattern. Then we're slowing it down and breaking each step apart so you can apply it in your own games. These fights feel fast because resets happen in seconds, but underneath the speed is a repeatable system. Every win you're about to see comes from the same 5 decisions made in roughly the same order. So let's slow it down and build the reset piece by piece. Step 1, retreat. This is where most players fail. Instead of taking the rechow, you break line of sight and buy time. This is your rechow window. A clean retreat isn't running, it's creating space to regain control of the fight. From there comes the reload. Not just your weapon, but your mental state. You're resetting your resources and preparing for the next engagement window. If there's no time to reload, we are managing our equipment with the next full weapon. Sometimes that weapon is on the ground. During this strategic fallback, we are repositioning. Now this is where you steal the advantage. You're changing angles, elevation, or cover to make the enemy guess wrong about where you'll reappear. Replating, if possible, increases the chance of winning in a 1v1. Health is tempo. Armor gives you permission to re-enter the fight on your terms, not theirs. And finally, re-engage. This is the payoff. You're attacking from a position of control, turning their pressure into your opening. Now let's run through the full fight and watch how all 5 steps connect in real time. Now I'm going to break down a 20 kill rampage to show you how these fights work in an aggressive lobby. Let's get into it. So today I want to talk about the 5 steps to resetting a gunfight, and we're going to review these before, during, and after several fights in this game. The best time to plan an escape is before the fight begins. Recently, I've been landing over here at Picnic, and what I love about this particular drop, it has a clear line of sight on the entire POI. It also has several exits that you can take to get out of bad situations if needed. The reason I include this in my gunfight reset is players will put themselves in extremely bad situations where they don't have a lot of options to get out of there easily. So getting better about planning your pushes gives you a better outcome. Once I land, I'm getting myself an automatic weapon, and in this situation I prefer a long range so that I can take down multiple targets and then react to their retaliation. When I am done clearing that threat, I am still maintaining my cover on the roofline. Once you've cleared your POI, it's time to buy your loadout. And even after I have committed to this purchase, I immediately go to high ground to see what I can see. And if you are ignoring that during the purchase and not seeing where you're going to push next, you're missing out on free information. UAVs are $8,000. So we're going to be focusing every piece of information that we can to maximize finding those teams. Once we get that loadout, we're communicating that we're going to push that team with our teammates, as well as noticing that there are several fly-ins. Now that means that there are 2 teams in the area, because why else would they be returning? So I'm approaching this cautiously. We're pushing together. I see 2 different skins. I'm able to take 1 player out, and this is the point that most people ignore in this fight, is they get over comfortable with the fact that they have their entire team, and I see 3 enemies in this position. So I need to be very careful about how I proceed in this situation, because that is a quick death. My playstyle is most definitely flank, and I'm going to back off of that fight and go to the outside edge. That gives me an advantage because they're focused on the team behind me, and I'm able to drop one and then change my position. Notice I reload the weapon and double check before I leave, just to see any retaliation, and then catch the retaliation on the other side. Now at this point, I'm also focusing the information that's on the map. We have two crosshairs where those players are, and that's something that changed with the beginning of Season 2. We no longer have level indicator arrows on whether they're in the air, on the ground, or below us. At this point, I'm giving myself a possible exit from the enemy that is on the left at bowling who could have elevation, and I'm also respecting the ridge that they could come up and get a heady from the opposing dot. If you intend to master the skill, your mini-map is your best friend. I say it in every single one of my videos because the master of the minimap is the master of the game. If you pay attention to the information, you can become a more aggressive player based on information, not on reaction. At that point, I can then cover those reses and then get myself back in the fight as soon as they're up. Now, I'm going to push up towards the buy station, but we're going to take damage from a sniper on the ridge. I'm going to rotate the safe line, change my position so that they can't see me, and then start to gather information before the rotation. Being aware of your visibility is a huge part of what makes this skill set so powerful. And at this point, I am still on the backside of this building, and if I were to take damage from the sniper, I have a self-revive and a way out. So I am looking at the new threat that is down lane here. Now we're about to get into a very aggressive 10 minutes of this game where we are constantly moving. I'm going to pause some and then I'm also going to let some clips ride out. And the idea is to give you the full spectrum of the decisions live on how to execute these 5 rules when getting in and out of gunfights and how to win more of them, focusing on strategic movement and those 5 R's. So we're going to respect the threat from the sniper before. As we pass over the roof line, I'm going behind the AC to give myself an extra piece of protection. I see the dot in bank as well as the player that flies in on bowling. Able to take him out, and I'm pushing towards that threat. At this point, I see the loadout purchased, and I am aggressively pushing with a streak. I am falling to the right away from the directional fire indicator and zipping up to the power position because I want it. At this point, I have control of where their loadout is, and my streak is suppressing all of their visibility. They're stuck inside this gas station. Once the last missile goes forward, I'm pulling to the edge of the building to drop this target, reacting to the audio cue immediately to drop that player. New intel on the map, we have a player down out by the train tracks, and we're able to thirst. This immediate reaction of following this map to find these players is the next level of your aggression that a lot of players are missing. This crosshair on my map at the 10 o'clock position is why I'm moving directly over to this spot and pre-aiming that enemy, pinging it, and communicating their reaction. Now, I'm moving over to the ridgeline. Before I go too far to pursue that, I take shots from this direction. This is where all 5 steps come into play. I'm not going to jump off of that edge to pursue the guy on the right. I'm going to back off, hit some follow-up shots, retreat, reload, reposition, replate, and now re-engage. At this point, I'm going to isolate the secondary target by aligning its position with a piece of cover. And I do this frequently. Small adjustments give me clear line of sight to attack a secondary enemy, and I don't have to immediately disengage from the edge, which is what they want to do. They want to team fire me. So at this point, I am able to put shots, follow-up shots on the other, and I'm assessing my situation. Multiple enemies down here. I'm keeping them away from my power position, but I'm using all 3 of my plates. It's time to make a decision. I'm going to restock on my stims, and I'm going to try and get a knock. We want an opening pick before we push a team. We find a squirt around the outside, get our drop, take our fast exit over to the left side flank, and then reload, holding the left flank from our team. No visual. 2 dots on the left, 1 on the right. not pushing up. We don't want to overexpose. We go to the top, see secondary enemy on the catwalk, retreat back, use our new position to draw them forward, and retreat again. We are getting away from this fight. We have no plates in. Time to reset when there's another fly-in. Pop that plate, shoot the target immediately. Once we thirst, we are going back to the minimap. And this is the actual reload that I want players to start to think about is after you've retreated, don't just reload your weapon, reload your intel. If you don't have information that's fresh for the next decision, do not aimlessly push without that information. You have to play differently when you have information versus when you don't. And a lot of players at this point would turn around and go to this buy station and waste $8,000. UAVs are expensive. And at this point, I have information of 3 players. On the other hand, 1 player knocked and a second player out of the game. I have information that I'm about to be overrun. So you will see me do this a lot in aggressive games. I will back up by teammates so that if I get overrun, I do not get eliminated. The other advantage with that is I can provoke player behavior from this section over here to push me before they've fully kitted their weapons. Players will do the regain, but when they hear buybacks, they have this urge that they have to take care of. So I will take the opportunity, buy them both, rotate around the side, and like I was just presuming, they pushed aggressively. Not ready for the fight. I'm going to reload, pop that plate, and then hit the reposition to the top of the zip. At this point, not waiting to push that gave me the opportunity to eliminate this target. If I had waited at the bottom, he would have had more time to react to this zip audio cue, and I don't have full plates. So that aggressive nature is what led to that thirst. I'm now holding this power position and taking out everyone that touches it. Fighting plate for plate. With every kill, I'm making sure I'm maximizing every piece of it, continuing to do the buyback. And it is something that a lot of players will not do in those situations. They will waste resources on information when I am looking at that map. I know that there's a guy coming in this vicinity because I just looked at my map on the last drop. When I eliminated the player on the ground here, I had a visual pin in my head based on the minimap that there are players on both sides of this brick building. And with some good anticipation, I'm able to predict that they're pushing that player as well as trying to get to a buy station themselves. I'm able to drop him immediately. 3 new pings. No plates. 2 players out of the game. Gonna do it again. I'm gonna buy him back, and I'm moving away from the buy station so that they can continue to look at that situation. I'm gonna peek from the side, stopping them from thirsting my teammate, rotating to the opposite direction, and then trying to get a line of sight. Unfortunately, I collide with my escaping teammate, which is something you have to be conscious of. If you're doing a pinching crossover and you collide into each other, you've now given collateral shots, especially for multiple enemies in a power position here, and I unfortunately got us both killed. At that point, though, I am eyeing this door. And this is the clip from the beginning of the game. I am pre-planning to stem out of this situation, switch to my secondary, plate on the move, and find a piece of cover to take this challenge. I also know that there was a second enemy with him, and I confirm that right here. He also wants to kill me because he just lost his second kill, and he's motivated by the death of his teammate. These are the things that I want you to think about when you are in these fights, is don't stand there and plate. Don't leave your last known position from the enemy who pinged you and called you out. Move to a new position and execute your animations like reloading and plating on the move. Reload first. If you're out of ammo, you can't shoot people with plates, but you can win gunfights without plates in. I'm going to say that again. You cannot kill people with plates. You can win gunfights without plates in. You have to prioritize what is the lethal and what's the defense. And if you don't have either of those things, you need to make movement changes to increase the distance, to increase your reach out window so that you can have both. Ideally, I want ammo and plates when I fight this guy. So what I'm going to do is continue trailing the gunfight in my control. And I'm going to serpentine around the building. I'm going to get my sub out, zip to the top, go over the apex of the roof, and then peek that zip. That aggressive change is what full circled this gunfight. We had 2 enemies on the roof. They dropped us both. They pushed. I rotated around the outside, took one, motivated the second, continued to plate, and then took his power position from him and killed him. That is the escape artist mentality, is to come full circle and pull those enemies into your advantage. Using the cover to protect yourself from that enemy, changing position based on the directional fire indicator. If you want to know the second most important thing that you should be doing to get better at becoming the escape artist, after your minimap, you need to master that directional fire indicator, which is the compass that is around your actual reticle. Blue is for when you're being fired upon, and red is when they're actually making damage. You need to be able to rotate that to the 12 o'clock position, identify your threat, and then back yourself into cover in the opposite direction. Practice that over and over again. That's a great 1v1 tactic with no radar turned on, and I will be talking about that in the School of Strategy for both the aim lesson as well as the movement lesson. If you guys are not a member in the membership program, I have huge videos coming down the pipeline. I highly recommend you take advantage of it because we are going full speed into the coaching program. After you've identified the threat, find new information. You want to move laterally to get a better angle on enemy that's hiding from you. Just moving down 2 roof lines, I was able to get fresh line of sight on this player that's regaining on that loadout. Now, this is a point where I'm going to buy a UAV. I have 13 grand. It's a free buyback. I'm also going to pick up a precision airstreak, and I'm paying attention to the fact that we are coming towards the end of Resurgence. We have 1 minute left. We're going to play less aggressively, hold on to a little bit of cash for that endgame when possible, and start thinking endgame procedures. We're going to hold down the bridge. We're going to put suppressive fire on it, and I'm keeping my area clear of enemies. We kill a player that has dial-up internet. And then we rotate to provide pressure. Again, be ready. The simple retreat that most players don't do is just the shouldering technique. You don't have to run completely away from the fight. You just want to take their ability to shoot you away momentarily, which can really provoke them to do some very dumb things. And you'll be so surprised when you start doing that, how many times players will literally just stand up and run at you with their gun in the air and they're not ready. I'm going to provoke them a little bit with the precision airstreak. While I replate, I'm going to fall back to this guy on the loadout. Now, I'm predicting he's seen my gunfire and he's going to come out of that box hostile. So I am already leaning or moving into the right side of the cover. As he shoots me, I do the same thing. Shoulder, stim, don't plate, but knock him on his safe exit. These are these tiny little decisions that you have to start moving into your everyday gunplay so that you can take out players. Another guy flies in the backside of the gazebo. He tries to find a gun first. I'm going to hold him. The gas is going to pinch him towards me anyway. Grabbing a little more cash in the meantime. I'm not letting him into circle. We're on 19 kills. Coming up towards the 5th circle of the game, your resurgence is disabled. Now is where we need to think about endgame procedure. What I don't like in the endgame is staying on the far edge. I like to move a little bit in zone to capture my slice of the pie. I see information over at train for the regaining team. Now there's a few decisions here. We have contracts on that side. We have a buy station on that side. We have a buy station on the steps of church. Our loadout is also in that vicinity for a late game buyback. So there are lots of decisions here on why we would rotate to the other side of the map. I'm going to try and catch these regaining players coming out of train. No visual. Waiting for the gas to bring them to us. The fact that we don't see them means they went high side by the church, which is why I'm immediately looking in that area. I see them. We rotate back again. We're going to take the high ground at Bowling Alley this time. But before we get a chance to, we see a fresh buyback at our first buy. So I go to apply pressure, and this is a textbook nope moment. 1, 2, 3, 4 enemies. This is worthless just to shoot at. Absolutely worthless. So I'm going to back out of this fight immediately. I'm also going to tell my teammates, which is something that a lot of people will not give valuable clues. I will say full team of 4. Give that information, because with that information, they should not be pushing it as aggressively. I'm backing off after a break, moving towards cover. They send a precision. Very aggressive team. In that time frame, we get circle, and there is a most wanted moving up behind me. We also have a player coming out of the White House towards the bowling alley. I'm assessing at this point, the best thing for me to do is try and get elevation and get to a buy station. I don't anticipate winning this fight, but against 4, what I'd like to do is get away from this team and have them fight the other 3 teams that are still in this game. There's no clear line of sight to flank left towards that buy station. So I'm going to get the high ground, defend against the most wanted. I hear the footsteps on the roof. I take out that player. We're down to 2 enemy teams. I take the money. No visual. I'm going to go for the buy. Hayes takes out the 3rd team. Now it's 4v4. They are extremely aggressive. They take out blue and both fly-ins and push me on the roof. There was nothing to be done in that situation. They were pushing aggressively like they should because they had the full 4-man squad. If you want to learn to play better, this is the channel for you. If you're new, subscribe, hit the like button, comment. I have an entire library of ways to get better at the game. Keep building, keep adapting. Sit rep out.